Now, that was our focus in as far as the constitution is involved. So now we look at the extent to which the South African electoral systems, including proportional representation and the role of Independent Electoral Commission, impact political representation and voter behavior. It is important to note that this stems from one of our focuses, particularly under electoral processes. So let's now focus on that. So the South African electoral system, particularly its use of proportional representation, PR, and the role of the Independent Electoral Commission, plays a significant role in shaping political representation and voter behavior. These mechanisms are designed to ensure fairness, inclusivity, and legitimacy in the electoral process. But they also have specific implications for how politics operates in the country. Let us look at proportional representation. Proportional representation and political representation. South Africa uses a closed list proportional representation system for national and provincial elections. Under this system, political parties submit lists of candidates, and seats in the legislature are allocated based on the percentage of votes each party receives. This system has several key impacts on political representation. For one, inclusivity and diversity. So PR, which is proportional representation, ensures that even smaller parties gain representation in parliament, promoting a more diverse and inclusive political landscape. This has allowed a minority groups and smaller political parties, such as the Economic Freedom Fighters at the time and the Inkatha Freedom Party, to voice out the frustrations of those, or the constituency to parliament. But now we know that the Economic Freedom Fighters, although it has now lost a few seats in parliament based on the last national elections, it is one of the dominant voices which compels other political officials from different political parties to uphold the rule of law, and at times even during the SONA debates, they uphold and show a sense of need, or rather for accountability by public officials. So one of the smaller parties that I could have mentioned is the PAC, right? So now we also look at party dominance. While PR, or proportional representation, promotes inclusivity, it has also reinforced the dominance of the African National Congress, which has consistently won a majority of votes since 1994. The system can marginalize smaller parties in terms of influence, as the majority party often controls key decision-making processes. But as an academic, I would want you to postulate and hold the stance in which you say that the ANC is no longer the ruling party. It does not hold the majority of the votes. And as such, that is why in this country now we have the government of national unity, because the African National Congress could not reach that threshold in which it will be regarded as a dominant political party. It is now part of coalition governance with the DA and other smaller political parties. So we look at the accountability challenges. In a closed list system, voters elect parties rather than individual candidates, which can weaken the direct accountability of representatives to their constituents. Members of parliament, which are regarded as MPs, are more accountable to their party leadership than to the voters, as their position on the party list determines their election and career progression. So we have coalition politics at the local government level, where no single party often wins a majority. The PR has led to coalition governments. This has forced parties to negotiate and collaborate, shaping governance dynamics in municipalities. So now the role of the Independent Electoral Commission, which is a Chapter 9 institution, much like the Human Rights Commission. The IEC is an independent body tasked with managing free and fair elections in South Africa. Its role is critical in ensuring the integrity of the electoral process and shaping voter behavior. We firstly look at the electoral integrity and trust. So the IEC's impartiality and professionalism have bolstered public trust in the electoral process, which is essential for democratic legitimacy. By ensuring transparent and credible elections, the IEC has helped maintain political stability in a country with a history of racial and political divisions. You would have a case in point of the period of apartheid in South Africa, where there were racial and political divisions. So that is one case in point. Voter education and participation. The IEC conducts extensive voter education campaigns, which have contributed to higher voter turnout in past elections. These efforts empower citizens, and particularly those in marginalized communities, to understand their rights and participate actively in democratic processes. Now, addressing electoral disputes. The IEC plays a key role in resolving electoral disputes, ensuring that grievances are addressed fairly and transparently. This has helped prevent political violence, instability during election periods. As you know, there's a case in point in which the Umkhonto weSizwe political party has taken an electoral officer from the IEC to court because he was found with sealed ballot boxes containing obviously ballot papers. So there's an ongoing case regarding that. You should go and Google it and look into the matter. And that is where you would know that even though the IEC is there to actually resolve the electoral disputes and ensure grievances are addressed fairly, there was an occurrence in which you would know that political parties were sharing their grievances, in which they felt that the voting system was rigged and stuff, but it is an ongoing matter, so it is still alleged. Yeah, it's still part of an important case study to have and to question when upholding your studies in political science and international relations. Remember, we have all these terms, we have all these definitions, we have all these organizations which have to operate a certain way. But there's a way in which we should also hold them accountable. And there is a way in which we could also look at the case studies and the references regarding the functionality of these organizations, So in as much as I am educating you about these organizations, we must also look at the case in point in South Africa, and particularly some cases which are important regarding that. So now also the IEC focuses on innovation and adaptation, where the IEC embraces technological advancements such as electoral voting systems and online voter registration to improve efficiency and accessibility. Now, it's important to note that these innovations have made it easier for citizens to participate in elections, particularly younger and urban voters. Now, the impact on voter behavior. So we look at the combination of the proportional representation and the IEC's oversight, which has specific effects on voters' engagement with the political process. Now let us look at one key important area: party loyalty versus issue-based voting. The proportional representation system encourages voters to support parties rather than individual candidates, which can reinforce party loyalty. However, in recent years, there has been a shift toward issue-based voting, with voters increasingly holding parties accountable for service delivery and governance performance, which is one important key area we could look at and give a case in point in the electoral turnout, rather, of those who would have otherwise voted for the ANC but did not show out to vote, and those who have had a vote shift from the ANC towards probably the Umkhonto weSizwe party or towards the DA. So these are the dynamics that come to play when it comes to electoral processes, or voting rather. So we have protest voting and abstention. So dissatisfaction with dominant parties, particularly the ANC, has led to protest voting for opposition parties from voting altogether. So you have individuals who would otherwise want to vote for the ANC, but because of the ongoing charges and ongoing corruption cases that are mushrooming from that political party, people decide not to go and show up to vote. So this is also a form of protest, which is regarded as protest voting. So now the declining voter turnout in some areas reflects growing disillusionment with the political system, despite the IEC's efforts to promote participation. We have regional and ethnic voting patterns. Proportional representation has allowed regional and ethnic-based politics or parties, such as the IFP in KwaZulu-Natal, to maintain a presence in parliament. This has reinforced the importance of regional and identity-based considerations in voter behavior. So now the most important part to look at is the challenges and limitations. See, while South Africa's electoral system have many strengths, they also face challenges. There's lack of direct accountability, where the closed list proportional representation system weakens the direct link between voters and representatives, reducing accountability at the local level. We have fragmentation of opposition, which is the proliferation of smaller parties under proportional representation, which fragment the opposition, making it harder to challenge the dominance of the ruling party. So we look at the voter apathy. So despite the Independent Electoral Commission's efforts, voter apathy remains a concern, particularly among younger citizens who feel disconnected from the political process. So lastly, we now look at how do the rulings by the Constitutional Court and other judicial bodies shape political outcomes, uphold democratic principles, and address socio-political challenges.